sound system person isn't here, so anyone who comes up, talk nice and loud. You guys hear okay?
Yes.
You have it here? Okay, so make sure. It is an honor to be here. There's just something about this place, and this whole, it's like, wow. Talking about the history. And this building is so old, there's no bathrooms in it. But we're here to honor Thomas James Bell, Tommy. And I just want to pray first, and then we're going to have, Michael's going to come up, then Tommy and Robert, Bob. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for allowing us to be here. And Lord, we're here to honor Thomas Bell. And Lord, I just pray that your presence would be here, your peace would be here. I pray that you would comfort everyone in this room, and that you would make yourself real to each one here. And I pray that everything that's said and done would honor you. And Lord, we just ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
So, Michael, it's been cool.
The first reading, Psalm 23. This is a reading from the book of Psalms, chapter 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen.
Amen.
This is a reading from the book of John chapter 14, 1-3. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also.
Amen.
Amen.
This is a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, and a time to mourn, and a time to dance. We pray.
Amen.
Does anyone have anything they want to say about Dad, Grandpa, or anything? I know it's not in the program, but I just sometimes someone has something they want to say. Well, when I'm done, if you do, I'll give you another chance.
I'll say something.
Okay, and you're going to be coming up.
Yeah.
You're the last one.
Okay,
So
so-
if someone before you, if there's something you want to say, share your heart about, Tom. Most of you don't know me. It's an honor to be here. The memory I have of husband, dad, grandpa, he was a football coach for me, and it was only a couple of years, and it was a Blue Devils team that was undefeated, and Mr. Walters was the head coach, and he was a hard-nosed, kick you in the rear end to get you moving kind of coach. Mr. Bell was, when I was trying to think of the best way to describe him, was humble and kind. And he was the kind that would motivate you, not so much to kick you in the rear end, but here, let me help you, move you along. That's what I remember. And which sometimes both are needed. Sometimes we need a kick in the rear end. Sometimes we need someone to grab us by the hand. But my purpose here, I have two purposes. One is to honor him. Two, I want you all to be able to see him again. The best way I can honor him is to say what he would say. As far as seeing him again, listen, if I could undo death, if I could bring him back, I would do that. But that's not possible. So there's only one other way possible, and that is for all of you to know the Lord, to be able to see him. And again, I've done 60 funerals in 27 years, and I always want to honor the person. And the best way I think I could do that is, okay, what would they say if they were standing here right now? If we could pull them, bring them here, what would they say? The thing is, death is a mystery. There's kind of a veil. We can't see beyond it. Right now, he sees. He knows exactly. There's no mystery anymore. And I'm certain that if he was standing here, he would say, find Jesus, open your heart to Jesus, follow him. And I'm 100% certain that's what he would say. And how do I know? Well, only one person has conquered death and came back from the dead to tell us. And the resurrection, if you look at it honestly and study the facts, the only logical possibility is somebody certainly dead 3 days later was certainly alive. Josh McDowell set out to disprove the resurrection. He became a Christian because he said the evidence. There's only one possibility. 10 of the apostles died saying that they saw Jesus alive. And you don't die for something you know to be alive. And what's the last thing they'd be afraid of if they saw Jesus raised from the dead? Death. And there was a testimony there. And to give the context for this, my dad was a drag racer in the Hall of Fame. He died when I was 15. I was 37. I woke up one morning, my aunt crying, saying the doctor did all they could. And I was like, he died? And she said, yes. And I ran from one end of the house to the other screaming no. And I still remember just the feeling of hopelessness, emptiness, the loneliness. I just remember that feeling. I was angry, I was bitter, I hated everyone. And it was the darkest moments. And because I lived to follow my dad's footsteps, he was like an idol to me. And then somebody told me what it means to ask Jesus in my heart. And all I can say is a joy and a peace and a life came into me that was beyond words. I knew my sins were forgiven. This wasn't make-believe. This wasn't some fantasy. This is something real. I grew up Catholic, which I think most here have grown up in that. And the thing is, I knew about Jesus. I knew exactly who he was. But I knew him like I knew George Bush. How many of you know who George Bush is? You know who he is? Anybody here know him personally? No, see, I knew, that's how I knew Jesus. I knew about him, but I didn't know him personally. And when I opened my heart to him, he became like my best friend. When I read the Bible, he was talking right to me of things that were going on in my life. And you could say it's a coincidence. Well, coincidences happen every day for 40 years. Where he speaks to me, he's real, he's direct in my life. And Jesus told things about death. The Bible tells things about death. And Christianity is not blind faith. It isn't this feeling, and it's thinking, understanding. There's truth. Jesus wants you to think. And so there's things I'm going to tell you that maybe you haven't heard before. One, the Bible says it's appointed unto men once to die, then the judgment. This is not a comfortable thing, death. Do you know every one of us are going to get a turn? Do you guys really going to get a turn? And the older you get, how many are getting older and you start thinking, wow, I could be next. When you're younger, you don't think it's ever going to happen to you, right? But when you get older, I'm 57, and there's a lot of people my age that aren't here. And it's not a comfortable thought. I wish I could stop it. I wish I could fix it. I hate death. It made me angry. I couldn't fix it or undo it with my dad. I can't stop you dying, okay? But what's interesting, the Bible teaches there's two deaths. The word death means separation. See, you are not that body you're in. You're a soul, your will, your person. You're a soul, and you're going to leave that body. You live in that body. The verse that you read about in my father's house, there are many mansions. People picture all these big old 110-room buildings. That's not what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about a new body. We live in this. This is like an old tent. How many of you would recognize this old tent's starting to fall apart? Some of these older ones. You can kind of slow it down, but you're going to get a new one like his. And so you're going to, first death is leaving this body, separation from this body. There's something worse. It's called the second death. It's when you're separated from God. Okay? And that's something I can affect. I can't stop you from dying the first time, but I can tell you things that'll keep you from dying the second time. And what's interesting is all good comes from God, so to be separated from God is to be separated from all good. And that's what hell's going to be. And I don't want anyone there. What's interesting is God told Adam, the day you eat of this fruit, you will die. Well, they ate of it, but they didn't die physically, but they did die spiritually. What's interesting is when God made Adam, you got to picture this. You know, you're a soul in a body, but inside your soul, there's this place made for the spirit where you connect with God. And so Adam was spirit, uppermost, soul, then body. The moment he sinned, the spirit part died, and it flipped. Body became the first thing. And what was the first thing you noticed when they sinned?
Naked.
Hey, where's our clothes? They didn't even they were so conscious of God and the Spirit, they did not even realize it. And it flipped. And that's how animals are. Animals are body, soul, and that's what we became like. And so every person who comes into the world, the spirit part is dead. And again, the way to picture it is you're a soul and a body, but inside your soul there's this empty place that's made for God and for His Spirit. And what's interesting about that is that, you know, nothing in this world will fill that. Nothing physical. And people are empty. They try to put material things in that place. You know, money, sex, possessions, whatever, alcohol, drugs. It'll never fill it. And see, that part of you, to know God, has to be made alive. It has to be born. You've been born physically. Everyone's born physically. But there has to be a spiritual birth. Jesus said God is a spirit. And those who worship Him must worship Him in spirit and truth. It's like if I took you to Niagara Falls and you were blind, I could talk to you all day about what I'm seeing, but you would never get it until you have the ability to see. And it's the same thing with God. Until the spirit part of you is alive, Jesus said you cannot know God, and that part of you has to be born. And Jesus described it like a well inside of you, and He says it springs up into life. How many of you want love, joy, and peace? Anybody want those things? Realize those only come from the Spirit. They're not possible from the five senses. And so that part of you is the source. And Jesus said it's like a well. Imagine you're thirsty in your soul. Is it possible to be thirsty in your soul? You can be physically thirsty, but your soul can be thirsty. Well, the moment I asked Jesus in my heart, there was like this well. There was this joy that's never left. It's never left. And the thing is, it's not possible from the five senses. What's interesting is if you try to fill that void with things of the world, it actually gets bigger. You actually feel more empty. Are there people out there trying to be satisfied with drugs and alcohol and the things of the world and they're miserable? Yeah, it'll always lead you to that. And so what's interesting is if you're born once physically, you will die twice, physically and spiritually, eternally separated from God. If you're born twice, physically and spiritually, you only die once. Okay? And here's the thing, how is the spirit part of you made alive? Jesus says He stands at the door and knocks. He's talking about the door of your heart. He's knocking. He says, if anyone hear my voice and opens the door, I'll come into them and sup with them and them with me. Sup, eating, is a picture of fellowship, relationship. Jesus doesn't want religion. Religion is, here's a set of good deeds, do these, don't do the bad deeds, hopefully God will accept you. Nothing of the Bible or Jesus is about religion. It's relationship. And religious people try to do good things for God to accept them. But what Jesus taught was we do things out of thanks for what he's done for us. And so if you hear his voice, if you realize something's missing and you need Jesus, that's his voice talking to you. And the thing is, the doorknob's on the inside. He won't force you. You have to decide. And sin, the Bible says, deserves death. Jesus took your place. Here's a great little picture, too, that I like to think of. Jesus stood as you before God. If you've sinned, how many of you have sinned here? Everybody sinned here? At least once, okay? The Bible says the wages of sin is death. Jesus stood before God as you. You deserve death, he took your place. So now you can stand before God as Jesus. Would you say the Father is pleased with the Son, with Jesus? Yes. Well, if you take that deal, that's the New Testament. It's a contract. God will now treat you based on what Jesus deserved because Jesus took your place. Here's another analogy to think of. And Jesus gave this analogy. Imagine you're on your way to court. You're in handcuffs. They're leading you to a trial. Murder. You know you're guilty. You're going to get a death sentence. As you're going to the trial, word comes from the judge, a plea deal. If you accept that someone else paid the price for you, he's going to declare you innocent when you show up in court. The thing is, and Jesus gave this analogy, the time to decide is now. Once you walk through the door of the courtroom, it's too late. And that's when you die, basically. And so right now is the time that Jesus says, here's the plea deal. God's offering you. You're going to stand before me someday. But before you get there, if you accept this offer, and see, the Old Testament is you'll be good enough, God will accept you. If not, you're cursed. Good enough means perfection. Or you go through the one who was perfect. And that's why I tell people, I'm not religious, but I'm a Jesus freak. There's no one like him. Okay, he's for real. And so, I hope my dad knew Jesus. I think there's a good chance that he did, but I don't know for sure. I didn't know Tom, husband, grandpa, dad. I hope he knew the Lord. I believe he did. In the end, we don't know about anybody else's heart, do we? But we do know about our own. Okay? And the thing is, Jesus is knocking right now on people's hearts. I know it. I got people in Cleveland praying for everyone here. And the doorknob's on the inside. Jesus won't force you. You know what the amazing thing is? He loves you so much, he'll let you walk away. Imagine you're marrying somebody and you're forcing them to come to the altar. It's not love. Jesus wants you to come willingly. My favorite general, and I've read tons of books on him. He was amazing, one of the most amazing Christians. And he was at this school, Stonewall Jackson. And he's considered the greatest general besides Washington in history. He started his first year. He wasn't a student. He was last in his class the freshman year. He worked real hard and finished second by the time he graduated. But he was fearless on the battlefield. He'd be in the front of the front lines praying. They never lost a battle when he was on the battlefield. And they asked him, they said, how can you be so fearless on the battlefield? And he said, I'm as at rest on the battlefield as in bed. He said, God has ordained the day of my death. My job is to always be ready. If all men were equally ready, all men will be equally brave. I think if you're ready, you have nothing to fear. And I'm going to end with something Jesus said. It's in John 11. Martha came, it's after Lazarus had died, and Martha was sister. And she came and said, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not died. But I know that even now, what you ask God, God will give it to you. Jesus said, your brother will rise again. Martha said, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection of the last day. And guys, a lot of people want to put Jesus on the level of others. Many Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, all these people. I like asking people, why didn't Muhammad and Buddha and Confucius ever say they'd raise from the dead? Because they weren't stupid. They knew they couldn't do it. Jesus said he would do it. And these words here, listen, either they're true or Jesus is a lunatic or a liar, because he says things that are so radical. I know he'll be resurrected at the last day. Jesus said, I am the resurrection. Imagine anybody else saying, what if I walked up here and said, hey guys, I'm the resurrection? You'd be like bolting for the door, right? But Jesus said he's the resurrection and the life. He said, he that believes on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Remember, think of two deaths. He who believes means to put your trust in. It's not mentally assenting to the facts. I heard about a guy who walked across Niagara Falls, came back, a crowd gathered. He said, "Who believes I can put someone on my shoulders and walk across this tightrope?" Everybody raised their hand. He said, "Who wants to go first?" Only one person. See, you can mentally believe the fact, but not put your trust in. He that believes trusts in me, though he were dead, meaning first death, physically dead, yet shall he live, meaning he's going to be with God. Okay? Whoever lives and believes in me will never die. It's not talking about physical. What's he talking about? You'll never be separated from God. And listen, this is the one who conquered death. There's no one else who did. There's no one like him. And he said, do you believe this? Do you trust this? Where you're going to spend eternity is going to come down to what you decide about this. And I want all of you to see Tom again. And the only way you're going to see him is if you know the one who conquered death. And Martha responded, she said, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you're the Christ, the Son of God, which had come into the world." And so you have a choice. And the best thing I can do for you, and I guarantee if Tom was standing here, he'd be saying, this is all that matters. Nothing else matters. In 100 years, guys, do you realize nothing else matters but where we are and who's there with us? And so this is the best thing I can do to honor him. I want to see all of you in heaven. I'm sure Grandma wants to see you all in heaven. Isn't that what you would want? Nothing else matters. Just for the record, I got 14 kids, and all I care about is that they're all saved, they know the Lord, and that they marry someone godly. And then my grandkids. So I'm going to pray, and I want you to think for a second. Look at Jesus. Is he the real deal? He's either the Son of God or he's a liar or a lunatic. It's the only possibilities. If anything in you is empty, you feel like something's missing, maybe you're like, yeah, I know him, but I just know about him. You have a choice. You open your heart, he says you'll come in, and then from there you get to know him. So I'm going to pray. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for everyone that's here. And Lord, thank you for the life of Tom, Lord, and what an honor to be here. So many honors that are his. This is a special place, special time. Lord, I pray that there's anyone in this room who maybe just knows about you but doesn't know you, that at this moment they would open their heart to you and say, yes, Jesus, come in. I believe you're the Christ. I'm putting my trust in you, that you paid for my sins. And I don't ever want to be separated from God. I want to know you. I'm coming through you. It's because of what you did on the cross, not because I'm good enough, because you're so good. Lord, help each one here to truly trust you. And again, Lord, just thank you for your goodness. Thank you that you've given us this hope that you, Jesus, conquered death, that we're going to see Tom again, and I'm going to see my dad again. And Lord, we just ask all this in your name, Jesus.
Amen.
All right, so Bobby, is there anybody else, anybody have anything they wanted to share?
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
I just want to thank everybody, our family, our wonderful family. Dad wasn't perfect, but he was a great man. And as Mike said, he was a kind and gentle man. And this was a place that he loved when he was little. He used to play in Pelham Bay with his buddies and pretend that he was an Army football player like Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis. And then fast forward through high school, who would have thought that he would have ended up here? And as the years went by, I think more and more he appreciated West Point, more so than when he was here. It was tough. He had a second chance to come back here. He flunked calculus his plebe year in the spring, and it was during a cheating scandal that eliminated 30-some players. And Coach Red Blake called him into his office, and my dad was quivering. He thought he was in huge trouble. And he walked into that office, and Coach Blake said, you know about how bad things are, is I need to help rebuild this tradition of Army football and bring back the honor, and it's all a part of the duty honor country. And the honor was tarnished, and so my dad and his classmates, he agreed to come back as a second-year plebe, and then went on to finish out and graduate in 1955. But the more the time went on, the more he felt the reverence of this place and how much he talked about how much he loved this place. And growing up, we heard all about this from my grandmother. And he only grew up 40 some miles down south of the river in the Bronx. But I just want to thank Monica and the AOG. I want to thank the Academy. I want to thank those that help us get here, people that couldn't make it here today. Charlie Johnson, who passed, Sam, his son, all of his classmates at 55 that made calls to my mom and made her feel warm, and hearing stories about my dad being here. And one of the stories was that, you know, your father was a hero here as a football player, being the first 1,000-yard rusher. But we didn't love him because he was a football player. We loved him because he was kind and gentle, and he treated us nice. And thank Emily, the organist. I want to thank Mike, great family friend, gives a great message. And I'm just eternally thankful that we have a chance to lay him here to rest and be able to come back and honor him. And I'm going to miss him terribly. But I just want to thank everybody and those that I'm not thinking of right now. So for that, I think I'll just close, and we can head on out to we can proceed on out to the gravesite. But I just want to thank everybody. So I appreciate it, Mike.
Are we going out? Or do you want
Yeah.
They'll come and get him.
Yeah, they're coming to get him.